Welcome back to the Toffee Booze, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ollie Hayes, and today I'm bringing the Everton news 24/7 for Wednesday, the 19th of February. So let's get straight into it. Obviously, as we begin to start looking up the table now, rather than over our shoulders in recent weeks, the current news seems to be surrounding largely around the plans for the summer, focusing around the summer transfer window. So today's headline news comes from Pete O'Rourke from Football Insider, and he reports that Everton are expected to revisit their January interest in the summer for Lyon's Ryan CHERKI. Even though obviously David Moyes would like this one, sources have actually confirmed that a reported deal may be hard to achieve as the player would like to play Champions League football should he leave Lyon this summer. CHERKI was actually he was heavily linked with Borussia Dortmund in January. A deal nearly took place there. He did stay at Lyon though instead, and he's 21 years old. He's 4 goals and 7 assists in 18 games this season for Lyon. So there's definitely a player in there. He's a decent player. Whether he can come to the Premier League and get up to speed, that does remain to be seen. But again, it's an interesting one. It's an exciting player. It's an exciting young player from the continent that we're targeting. So I think it's the right profile of player. But whether we can get a deal done with the player wanting to play Champions League football, that does remain to be seen. But it's one definitely to keep an eye on. But there's other incomings as well. TBR Football, they've reported that we're hoping to revisit our interest, and we're monitoring the situation of Tammy Abraham. He's currently on loan at AC Milan from Roma. TBR Football, they've also reported that he's on the radar of Newcastle, Leeds United, and West Ham United. Obviously, the latter currently have Evan Ferguson on loan. So their interest comes in the form that if they weren't able to strike a deal with Brighton for Evan Ferguson at the end of his loan in the summer, that's where this interest comes from. The report also says that he has his sights set on a return to the Premier League to increase his stock for the international stage. Obviously, he has made appearances for England in the past, so I think he wants to put his name in the ring for potential upcoming tournaments for Thomas Tuchel. He wants to be on the English stage, so he's sort of in the limelight a little bit more. So again, I can see why he wants to come to the Premier League. It is the best league in the world, and obviously, as I said before, we're looking up the table now, so Everton does kind of represent a decent opportunity and a decent prospect for him. And obviously, I think it's kind of an easy link as well, as we know that he is on loan from Roma and he'll be going back to Roma in the summer. I'm not too sure if AC Milan have an option to buy. I'm not so sure they do. So obviously, it would be just a straight loan. So him going back to Roma, he's obviously under a club that are owned by the Free King Group. So again, I feel like it's quite an easy link to make that, if he was to make the switch, the easiest passageway would be from Roma to Everton. But whether that comes in the form of a conflict of interest, we've seen certain clubs like Manchester United, for example, they couldn't sign any players from Nice. They couldn't sign John-Claire Todibo because of the Ineos link with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. But Manchester City seems to get round it quite easily. So whether that's a certain loophole that Everton can exploit and Tammy Abraham can come through that corridor quite easily, that does remain to be seen. But again, if we look at his form for Roma, he scored 37 times for them while he was there. So again, if he is to come to Everton, it'll probably be if Dominic Calvert-Lewin leaves at the end of his contract this summer. But again, like with Ryan CHERKI, I think it's one definitely to keep an eye on. But moving to outgoings now, Daily Mail, they've reported that Jarrad Branthwaite has been monitored by Real Madrid. No surprise there with a top centre back like Jarrad Branthwaite. He's been monitored by Real Madrid, with Dean Huijsen of Bournemouth and Liverpool's Ibrahima Konate also on that list for Real Madrid. Obviously, as we know, Everton value him at £75 million, with various bids from Manchester United in the region of £50 million last summer being rejected. The report also says that Liverpool, Manchester United, Manchester City, and Chelsea all remain interested, and they've been monitoring his progress this season. So again, I'm praying that Jarrad Branthwaite stays. Obviously, I feel like we're building something now going into next season. So we want to keep our best players, and we don't want to have to sell. And obviously with the financial fair play regulations and things like that, will we have to sell before the 1st of June? I'm not sure. Obviously, we're at that 3-year period now where the books kind of reset. So fingers crossed we can keep hold of him because he's a top asset. And I think he can go from strength to strength. And obviously, as we know, he's 22 years old and he's contracted till 2027. So if we want to cash in, we've probably got another year out of him before we definitely have to cash in. But moving away from the transfer window now and moving to some pre-season news, and it's that Everton are in talks to participate in the Premier League Summer Series in the US, according to Dan Sheldon. Obviously, it'd be good to get some exposure over in the US. I think if we're looking at our pre-seasons in recent seasons, I think the furthest we've ventured is the likes of Stoke and Blackpool. So it'd be nice to go to some foreign shores and get a little bit of exposure out there. But Dan Sheldon also reports that Manchester United situated. Bournemouth and West Ham are also in talks. So again, it just presents a really good opportunity for the squad, and good opportunity for the Toffees over in America to get some exposure, and to get a look at the Everton squad in their current form. But moving away from that and moving to some reports about Sean Dyche this week from Paul Joyce. He's reported that Sean Dyche will reportedly earn hundreds of thousands from his settlement from Everton once our Premier League safety is confirmed. And this is because the Freaking Group chose to defer this payment as a contingency plan. If we were to be relegated, we wouldn't have to pay Sean Dyche that money. So in the settlement package, I think they agreed with Sean Dyche that if we were to survive in the Premier League, that he would receive that payment. And obviously that payment stands at hundreds of thousands of pounds. But I think a lot of people have some opinions on this, and will probably make the valid argument that what did he actually do to secure our safety? But I think in a world where managers and players are so held higher than clubs, for example, in terms of contract negotiations, I think we probably have to just take this one on the chin and eradicate the Sean Dyche era from our memories and just look to move on positively, because again we know what it was like towards the end of the Sean Dyche era. So again, I think we probably just have to pay the settlement and move on. But finally, some news about Everton Stadium, and obviously following the largely successful event, the first test event at Everton Stadium on Monday afternoon, with the under-18s facing Wigan under-18s. I think there was a few murmurs about potential issues with transport to and from the ground, and the fans forum actually wrote an open letter to Steve Rotherham, who is the mayor of Liverpool, about the transport situation at Sandhills, and the situation of surrounding public transport to and from the ground. And he has since replied today. He's told the fans forum that he wants to meet with them and to discuss with them potential options and potential remedies for the little bit of chaos that we saw after that test event. But again, I think it's because it is a test event and it's only the first one. I think there's definitely kinks which we can iron out, and definitely things that can be improved on. But I think largely it was a really positive event, and shows that we're getting closer to that new stadium, and getting closer to the first Premier League game in that new stadium. But that is all for today's news. Obviously, let me know your thoughts in the comments about the potential incomings of Ryan CHERKI and also Tammy Abraham, and then also let me know your thoughts on the Jarrad Branthwaite situation with him being monitored by Real Madrid, and also let me know any of your thoughts about the test event and various other test events that are upcoming for Everton Stadium. I'd be keen to know your thoughts on those. But that is all from me today. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.